Carly, really excited to be here with you and talk to you about Fabletics and some of the amazing things you guys are doing over there. Um, I think one of the things that's really interesting is how you're really cutting through the clutter in this entire ecosystem online of retail with athletic wear, athleisure. It is becoming a huge, huge segment online. Um, I'd love to know how you really think about separating that out, right? Like, how do you cut through that clutter? How do you become your own brand and your own voice in that?
Yeah, thanks, Nico. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that. As you mentioned, really large industry and breaking through the noise. I think first and foremost starts with understanding who your consumer is and what they're looking for from a content perspective. And that's whether or not it's on your site, on your socials, in real life.
Sure.
Fabletics is a membership, has a membership, and as a part of that, we have a lot of information on our members. So first and foremost, we really think about what are our members looking for and deliver against that. And then, of course, we think about our brand identity, our brand ethos, the core tenets of the brand, and make sure that everything that we're doing is delivering against that. And then the third thing, of course, like culture is moving really fast.
Absolutely.
So we're really thinking about, okay, what's happening in culture and what then ladders back into our overall brand values. So ways in which we're doing that, one of the things that we've a long time done is really lean into celebrity talent to really drive awareness for the brand. So, some of the celebrity faces that we have today are Kevin Hart, Khloe Kardashian, Becky G, Ken Jeong. And we use
It's people that we've never heard of.
yeah, exactly. It's sort of like a no introductions needed. Like
Exactly,
you're like,
yeah.
oh, Kevin Hart, yes, I absolutely know him. But yeah, using them and our brand as a way to cut through the noise.
Yeah.
When you think about having someone like Kevin Hart and you think about how funny he is, when you think about how funny he is and then having him talk about the brand in a funny way, it really starts to break through and it's something that people pay attention to. So that's just one of the things that we're doing. And again, it really starts with the consumer and understanding like, what are they looking for? And,
Exactly.
I feel like Gen Z today is definitely looking for fun and entertainment and,
Absolutely.
how to stay engaged.
No, 100%. And I think so. Even to that point that you just brought up, some of the influencers that you work with, right? The partnerships that you have, like Kevin Hart and all these different amazing people. Trying to connect with people in an authentic way, I think, is something that's really, really challenging in this space, right? Because everybody wants to use influencers, everybody wants to use partnerships, sponsorships, because yes, everyone loves them. People want to hear from them, but consumers now have become so savvy and sophisticated that they see right through it, right? So if you are trying to work with someone that doesn't really align with the brand's authentic values, it's exposed right away. Everyone sees it. They're like, nope, I want nothing to do with this, right? So how do you go about trying to determine who's the right person? How do you do that? And make sure that they're really like a voice of the brand?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like authenticity is cultural currency. And you're absolutely right. Like consumers can immediately sniff it out if it doesn't feel authentic to who the brand is. So I think, that's what we think about first and foremost. And I'll use Ken Jeong as an example. So I don't know if everyone knows, he went to medical school. He was a doctor before he was an actor. So
I learned this after the fact, which is very interesting.
Yeah. So when we were thinking about who can be an ambassador for us for Scrubs?
Sure.
We were thinking, who is somebody who can drive awareness for the brand, but who has validity in the space? And to your point, it feels authentic. So when we, started to partner with Ken, it really felt like a true partnership where we're both thinking about, what is the community of Scrubs wearers in the medical community and beyond? What are they looking for? And delivering against that, and then using the tone, the funny, everything everyone knows that Ken's, like Kevin is like really funny. So using his humor to really break through the noise and do it in a way that feels authentic. So as a brand, we really pride ourselves on being fun. We make the best product. We really focus on fit and fabric and doing it in a fashionable way. But we also always really lean into fun. And so what you'll see from our ambassadors is they also lean into those things. So Ken Jeong is just a really good example of that.
No, it aligns well with the brand. And I do love that there's especially that humor aspect that's coming into. And I think, again, tied to that, the content is amazing that you guys are producing, right? The content is amazing. The brand is incredible. Yes, the quality, everything that's brought to the table. But it's even going beyond the content that we're creating. I think, what's really important that we see is where that content goes, right? And I think so many people sometimes focus so much on just the content that it's just throw it everywhere. But that's not where the consumer is, right? So just as much as you are trying to connect with them with an authentic creator, an authentic influencer, you have to connect with them in the content that they actually care about and not somewhere that is completely irrelevant. So how do you guys think about, where you're placing that content, or when you're working with a new platform, how do you decide how to do it, or which ones to use?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. I mean, I think like really understanding where the
Yeah.
consumer is spending their time, especially your consumer, is key to that. So, as we have a Gen Z, millennial, Gen X, boomer consumer, we really serve multiple different generations. So we really think about where are they spending their time and how do we make sure that we're delivering their content to us? So, of course, thinking through the integrated marketplace and understanding, the entire ecosystem and all consumer touch points. And as a part of that is like, what content resonates per platform. So if we're creating TikTok content, we're making it specifically for TikTok. A good example of something that we did the end of last year was in working with Khloe Kardashian. We created this whole campaign, and her collection was quite large.
Okay.
And a piece of it was this like long teddy jacket. And of course, like you could be a brand that's like showing the teddy jacket out, or like, going out to dinner, or like being outside, staying warm. We shot Khloe Kardashian. It was actually Khloe's idea, which I absolutely love, on a treadmill with the teddy jacket on and high heels and pretty much nothing else.
Okay.
And we put that on Instagram and TikTok, and it immediately blew up. It started, we just started to see so many comments, just overall
That's awesome.
positive
Yeah.
sentiment. And I think it's because, of course, like the Khloe campaign was everywhere, but we really thought about like, what is the moment on social that's going to be a showstopper that like people are going to be like, whoa, thumb stopping. And, as I mentioned, like we have really amazing partners, and part of it is like, her coming to us with this idea, being like, this would be so funny.
Yeah.
And knowing that, and then, to your point, putting it in the right place where consumers are going to see it and stop and engage with it.
100%. Yeah. And I think that, like, again, goes back to the topic of this, of cutting through the clutter of everything, right? Like trying something new, something unique, something that is truly, genuinely the brand in every aspect of that execution, which is
for sure.
awesome. So I love that. Can you tell me a little bit more about the membership side of things? So I think this is really interesting for Fabletics, right? Because there's a lot of competition in that space now. It's very, very popular. A lot of other companies in that space are not membership type programs. So what's the rationale? How does that help almost even build a closer connection to a consumer?
Yeah. So let me start by first explaining the membership. And
Sure.
sometimes it's helpful to say what the membership is not. So the membership is not something where you pay every month and we just send you a box of leggings and sports bras, or, pants. What it is it truly is a VIP membership, and the membership is free. And every month you get, by being a member, you get a ton of benefits and perks by being a member. One of those is 20 to 50% off of our retail price. Another benefit that you get is every month you make the decision, do I want a member credit? And what that member credit is, it's a $59 credit that allows you to get anything on the site up to $100. So like a great example of that is, this jacket may be more than $59, but if I use my credit, it feels like I'm getting something for, as a value. And that's what really consumers are looking for. One of the things, when Fabletics started, it was really about providing luxury product at an affordable price point. And so, we talked about leggings don't need to be $100, and a very cool bomber jacket doesn't need to be too expensive. And so, as a part of the membership, one of those values is that credit. And the great thing is that each month you can say like, I want the credit or I don't want the credit. And if you decide to skip for the month, then you're still a member with us and your credits never expire. And if you decide to skip, you're not charged. But you still get the benefit of, exclusive product, exclusive deals. You still get the amazing price point. And then you just, continue to stay on with us.
Yeah.
And what we find is, that really drives loyalty. We know a lot about our members. We're feeding back to them, what they're telling us that they want to see. But so I think like that's one of the biggest differentiators in the marketplace.
It's a really good like bond connection with them, and like you said, like you're getting a lot of information back that's going to help you kind of grow that membership pool.
Yeah.
who are these, who's this group of people, right? And what else do they care about? What are the other people? And that goes into everything else you might be doing from a media standpoint.
Totally. It
Right?
creates this
Yeah.
community too, where the relationship is reciprocal,
Yeah.
where they're with us because, they're staying loyal. Obviously, we make amazing product. But, the relationship goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what actually sustains loyalty over time is people really understanding like, what is the value of me being loyal to this brand? And we provide that to our consumers every day.
Love that. Thank you. So we do have one more question.
Yeah.
So thinking about a lot of new, again, like D2C brands, retailers online, or new retail brands, they're trying to like break out. What is a piece of advice that you would give them? Because I think the success that Fabletics has seen is amazing. You're continuing to grow. I love it. It's awesome. But that success is always carved from a path of errors and mistakes that happen along the way. So for some of these new brands that are thinking about kind of trying to break into this space and trying to grow in a real authentic way, any piece of advice or any mistakes or anything that you've learned from, over your time in this industry that you would recommend to any of them?
Yeah. I mean, for me, the most important thing is staying authentic to who you are as a brand. It's so easy to chase trends. It's like culture is moving really fast. You're seeing something on TikTok one day, something the trend changes the next day. I think for brands, they have to identify like where their space is within culture and how do they lean into those things. I think it's really important to lean into those things, but really understanding like, where's my place? Does this ladder into my values of a brand? Does this feel like us? And I think it's a constant thing that brands need to do. Like every day you need to gut check yourself. It's like, does this feel like us? And if the answer is yes, you keep moving forward. And like, that doesn't mean that you're not agile or you don't take risks. But at the end of the day, it has to be rooted in your value set as a brand, because ultimately that's what consumers see. And, while I've been here at South by this week, I've had so many people come up to me and talk to me about the brand, and they recite back to me exactly what I want them to hear. They're like, oh my gosh, I love your product. It's so amazing. I also love that it's for me, and like, I've met so many different people that have said like, it's for me. And that means that I've done my job to really show the brand in this like very diverse lens that like it is for everybody. We make versatile products. That's just really us leaning to who we are as a brand. And, I think as long as you stay on that path and, don't let the shiny object in the corner, throw you off. I mean,
Sometimes we all chase it.
It's hard. It's hard. You're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I mean, look at how many people leaned into Kendrick Lamar's jeans. Like,
True.
And some brands it felt really authentic for, and then other brands it didn't.
Yeah.
And so, I think leaning into what feels good for you as a brand is, the best piece of advice I would give.
No, I think that's really helpful, and hopefully that's valuable to a number of people out there. And I think one of the things you even said in that, which is you have to keep looking at it. Like, it's not, what are my values today? And then don't worry about it for 5 more years. You have to keep checking on that, because there's so much changing all the time. You have to know exactly what's going on. Where does the brand actually stand? What's going on? It's always changing, right? And you have to stay on top of that as a brand. You have to care about that consumer, and that's what's going to build that connection.
Totally. So, culture moves so fast. So
that it does.
Faster than I feel like it's ever before. So
well, I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
But Carly, thank you very much.
Thanks,
This was
Nico.
great.
Yeah.